The night my grandparents died, I thought grief would be the hardest part. I was wrong. At the reading of the will, the lawyer's voice cut through the silence. He left no room for doubt. To my grandchild, I leave the entirety of my estate, valued at $26 million. The quiet that followed was instantly shattered by chaos. My father slammed his hand on the table. My mother demanded explanations. My siblings stared at me as if I had stolen something sacred. I simply sat still, because I knew the storm was coming. My grandparents were the only ones who ever truly saw me. While the rest of my family dismissed me as the quiet one, the failure, my grandparents whispered a different story. "Patience is power," they would say. "You'll see." They taught me loyalty and restraint. Most importantly, they taught me that blood isn't love, actions are. That is why their estate came to me. Not because I asked for it, not because I demanded it, but because I earned it. My family, however, could not see it that way. To them, it was theft. To them, I was an obstacle. It did not take long for their masks to drop. That same night, after the lawyer left, my brother sneered, "Hand it over. It belongs to all of us." My mother hissed, "Your grandparents weren't thinking straight." My father delivered the final verdict. "If you don't give it up, you're no longer welcome in this house." I refused. Minutes later, my bags were on the porch and the door slammed behind me. My family, my own blood, had chosen greed over me. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I drove straight to my grandparents' house, the one place that was now truly mine. As I walked through the empty halls that night, I made a decision. I would not run. I would not hide. I would make them regret underestimating me. I knew my family well. They would not stop. They would come for the estate, for the house, for everything. But they did not understand. I was not alone. My grandparents had prepared me for this moment long before their deaths. My plan unfolded in deliberate steps. First, I locked down the estate. I contacted the lawyer and activated clauses in the will that transferred all assets, liquid accounts, investments, property deeds, into my sole possession. Everything was secured. Second, I called upon my grandparents' old connections, friends who owed them favors. There was a retired federal judge, a former police captain, and Daniel, my grandfather's closest confidant, a man with 30 years of experience in intelligence. These were not just names, they were shields. They were allies my family could neither bully nor bribe. The third step was to wait. I let my family come to me. I let them believe I was vulnerable, so I could show them exactly how wrong they were. The next morning, I heard the crunch of tires on the gravel driveway. They came in numbers. My parents, siblings, even cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. United by greed, they marched up the steps as if they owned the place. My father pounded on the door. "Open up! This house isn't yours. Get out before we drag you out." I opened the door, calm and silent, and stepped aside. Behind me stood Daniel, broad-shouldered and cold-eyed, a man who didn't need to raise his voice to command respect. Beside him were the judge and the police captain. 3 silent witnesses, 3 immovable forces. The air shifted instantly. My family's faces froze, their bravado drained away. My brother stuttered, Who are they?" I smiled. "Friends of the family, the real family." The judge spoke first, his voice sharp as steel. "This property is legally owned by your sibling. Any attempt to interfere will be considered trespassing." The police captain stepped forward. "And I'll make sure every single one of you faces charges if you try." Daniel didn't say a word. He just stared. That was enough. For the first time in my life, I watched my parents stumble backward. Fear replaced arrogance. They left that day humiliated. Their defeat was not just legal, it was psychological. What they saw in that doorway was every decision they had ever made, every dismissal, every betrayal, staring back at them in judgment. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need revenge through violence or chaos. All I needed was the truth. They were powerless, and they would never control me again. That night, I sat by the fireplace in my grandparents' house. I envisioned a future where my children would grow up here, surrounded by love, not poisoned by favoritism or greed. I thought of my grandparents and their lesson that patience is power. They were right. My family had tried to kick me out, to strip me of my dignity and force me into surrender. Instead, they lost everything. I didn't just inherit money, I inherited wisdom, strategy, and strength. As I watched the flames crackle, one truth burned brighter than the rest. Revenge doesn't always require blood. Sometimes, it only requires standing tall when your enemies expect you to crawl. 2 years later, I learned through mutual acquaintances that my family had fractured completely. The siblings blamed each other for losing the inheritance. My parents, once proud and commanding, had aged rapidly under financial strain. The house they had thrown me out of went into foreclosure within 18 months. They never contacted me directly, but I heard they hired lawyers to contest the will. Every attempt failed. My grandparents had been thorough. Every clause was ironclad, every provision legally bulletproof. They had known this day would come and had protected me from beyond the grave. I have since renovated the estate, transforming it into something that honors their memory while making it truly my own. The walls now hold new photos of friends who chose to be family, mentors who saw my worth, and the children I hope to have, who will grow up knowing that love is unconditional and respect is non-negotiable. Sometimes I walk the same halls where my grandparents once told me stories, where they whispered that patience was power. Their voices echo in every room, reminding me that the greatest inheritance they left wasn't money. It was the knowledge that I was worthy of protection, worthy of love, worthy of a legacy. My biological family taught me what abandonment felt like. My grandparents taught me what belonging meant. And in that silence, when my family's faces froze in shock, when they realized I wasn't the powerless child they had discarded, I knew I had already won the only victory that mattered. The freedom to choose my own family, build my own legacy, and live without apology for refusing to settle for less than I deserved. The estate is quiet now, but it is the good kind of quiet. The kind that comes from peace, not emptiness. And every night, when I lock the doors my grandparents left me, I sleep knowing I am exactly where I belong.
Thanks for watching PastQuest. If you enjoyed the journey into history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories from the past. See you in the next quest.